Okay, dear people, in this video I just want to explain some things regarding my EMB 110 Banderrand improvement mod. My name is JD, I'm a German YouTuber, and besides that I really like to mod around in the Microsoft Flight Simulator. The installation is very simple. Just download the file from flightsim.to and then unpack the file or open it with a double click on your mouse and then drag and drop the appropriate folder into your community folder. You can also use add-on linker, of course. The last folder, improvement mod, is the actual mod with the improvements I made, but I also included my cockpit livery with the darker panel without my YouTube brand, of course, and I also included the King Air sound mod. Unfortunately, this is so complicated and very hard to change, so that some sounds just don't work properly. If you really like a better sound, I just recommend looking at the FDSIM Plus sound mod for the Banderrand. That one is really good. So what does my mod actually change? A lot of things. So first, you will notice that you have a copilot visible. In the next version, I tried to implement a toggle button or a click spot where you can actually switch it on or off. But at the moment, the copilot is just there. If you want to change the appearance of the copilot, just for people that don't know that already, go to options. In English, that is miscellaneous, I guess. And here you can just change the appearance of your copilot. But I guess the most people will know that already. Regarding functionality, the most obvious changes are the condition levers. So I changed it from mixture behavior to condition levels, like in any other turboprop. So we have a fuel cutoff, we have low idle, and we have high idle. I changed a lot regarding the fuel pumps and the crossfeed functionality. I will explain it a little bit later in detail. I made some minor changes regarding the NG gauge, but these are more visual changes. You see a slightly higher NG RPM than it would be in the background flight model. The flight model of turboprops in Microsoft Flight Simulator is very flawed, and so this has no actual influence on your flight model or power output or whatever. It's just a small minor tweak. In the overhead panel, I changed a lot. I changed the behavior of the starter, of the ignition, and of the initial separator. I will switch on the power. And let's begin with the starting process. I changed the starter switch to a spring-loaded switch, so it has a middle position, and you can switch it momentarily to the up and low position. If you switch it up, you will start, or you will engage the starter, and the switch will go back to the middle position. Ignition is on because in this position the ignition in the flight model is armed bzw. on auto. If NG reaches a certain point, 12 to 18% RPM, you can just open the condition lever to idle or low idle, and fuel flow occurs and ignition, and the starter will automatically go off at around 45% NG. That's the real behavior of the Banderrand. If you have to interrupt the start process, then just switch switch down for a second. This switch now has a working function. If you switch it on, you have a continuous ignition. You would use that if you fly in heavy rain or icing conditions, and if you switch it back, then ignition is in the auto and arm mode. And in the real life Bandarante we have an upper position where we can actually turn the ignition completely off. But that's at the moment not possible because this switch only has 2 positions, and I don't know how to change the actual switch animation so that it would have a lower position. Then we could also include an ignition off. But at the moment we just have arm on, and we have the starter, engage starter and disengage starter. On I changed nothing regarding the generators. On a white engine we will interrupt, and starting the starter, disengaging the starter. Okay. So this is the real behavior. So at around 12 to 18% NG, low idle, ignition, fuel flow, and starter disengages automatically at 45% NG around. So I also changed the behavior of the inertial separator. In real turboprop aircrafts, the initial separator always comes with a performance loss, and that is actually modeled in the flight simulator very good, but it was not implemented by next-gen simulations, or it was implemented on the wrong switch. The engine anti-ice is the inertial separator in the Microsoft Flight model. If you switch on engine anti-ice, then it simulates a power loss. And in the original add-on it is bound to this switch. Well, that's wrong, that's only engine air inlet anti-ice. And now if you switch on the inertial separator, I will first switch to high condition. I will give a little bit power. So we now have around 700 foot-pounds, and if you switch on the inertial separator, you would see the drop in your torque. That's the actual behavior of a turboprop, and also in the background in the flight simulator the engine anti-ice is active. The power loss seems to be a percentage, so the more power you have, the more power you lose on inertial separator. But it seems to be a fixed value. I did not found any possibility to change the value of the power loss, but it's there now. If you switch off inertial separator, you gain all your power back, and this switch now only has a visual function. It just turns the lights on, because at the moment there is no engine air inlet simulation, engine air inlet anti-ice simulation in the flight model of the flight simulator. On jet engines that would be the engine anti-ice, but not on turboprops. On turboprops, engine anti-ice is the inertial separator, and air inlet would be that. So that's the changes on the overhead panel. Then I made changes to the fuel pumps and the crossfade. We switch on the generator, inverters, and we're good to go. In the unmodded add-on, this behavior of the fuel pumps and the crossfade is not there, or wrong. First, the original Bandarante has 2 electrical pumps on each side. In the flight simulator we only have 1 electrical pump for engine feed at the moment. But I changed these switches so it looks like in the real Bandarante. You have a main pump and you have an auxiliary pump. The auxiliary pump only comes on if the main pump fails or you switch off. But in the background, in the simulator, it is the same pump. If the switches are on this or this position, it's always the same engine, electric pump in the simulator, but it looks a lot more realistic that way. Same goes for the right side. I also changed the gauges. You now have the proper amount. Unmodded, you only see the main tanks, but the Banderante has 2 wing tanks. One is located on this side of the engine, one on this side, and this together is your main tank. You have your fuel in those both tanks, and you should see on the gauge both amounts, and that's what I changed. You now see full tanks. If you change it to full, you see your complete 2,500 pounds. Also, I changed the crossfeed behavior. Crossfeed behavior in the unmodded engine is just absent. If you would switch it on or off, nothing would happen because the pumps were just wired wrong. The original Banderante has no crossfeed pumps. You just open a valve so that the fuel flow can occur from left to right or from right to left, but it only happens if you use the pumps in a proper way. If you have both pumps on left side and the right side, nothing will happen if you change crossfeed. Now, left engine still feeds from left tanks, right engine still from the right tanks. If you want to really have crossfeed, you have to switch off the pumps on one side so that the pressure can pump the fuel to the other side. So you have to switch off the left hand pumps to have crossfeed from right to left. Right pumps have to be on. If you want to have crossfeed from left to right, you have to switch off the right hand pumps and have to do on the left hand pumps. So now we have pressure here, and fuel is also used on this engine, on the right engine. Also, I changed some transfer pumps. In the real life Banderante, the fuel from the outside tank would just flow to the inside tank through gravity. There are no pumps between these two tanks, so it wouldn't even make sense to just put this tank half full and this tank half full, because the fuel would just flow down here. And as soon as the battery is on, I started something in the background so that the fuel from here flows to here. Even if the engines are not running or anything, you would always see these tanks go low and these tanks go higher, and that's the real behavior. Okay, I just I bought the original POH for the Banderante, and I just modeled it after the descriptions in the original manual. Besides from functionality, I also modded the flight model. I introduced the modern prop simulation, the safety simulation, and the new Simatic 10 ground handling simulation. And I just want to also include the simulation of the electrical hydraulic pump. That one also seems not to be simulated at the moment. Of course, I have to tweak the flight model a little bit more so that we have the proper cruising speeds and climb performance and fuel flow, but it will take some more time. If you have any questions or problems regarding my mod, I suggest you contact me on Discord. You find a link to my Discord on my YouTube channel or in the video description below. And if you find this video helpful, I really would like to ask you to leave a thumbs up, because that is very important for the rating in YouTube. And if you want to support me in the long run, maybe you think about a subscription. That would be very, very nice of you. Have a nice day and fly safe. Bye bye.